We have a voicemail number. That number is 219-2-DAVID-P. Here is a really great question about how to deal with people who do a certain really annoying thing during political debates and conversations. Take a listen.
Hey, David. Sir, this is Jose. I just had a quick question.
Yes.
I was wondering if you had any advice to what you would tell somebody if you're having a discussion with them about politics where they just immediately go to whataboutism. They don't really bring anything to the conversation. They just say, what about this? What about that? What about this?
Yep.
Just need some help just with that. Thank you.
So this is super common. The way it might go is you say, listen, the evidence is indicative that Trump committed crimes and should be charged. And then the person you're talking to goes, well, what about Hunter Biden? Understand that sometimes when people do the what about this other thing, it's because their brain is scrambled. And I'm not saying this to make fun of people, but what I mean is there are lots of people who they don't organize their thoughts in their head and they can't think straight. And so they're just bouncing all over the place. And it's sort of like a cognitive issue of getting them to actually focus in on the one thing you're trying to talk about. That's one category. You then also have people who use whataboutism as deliberate deception or to try to undermine or distract and create red herrings. They use it sort of like as a tool, very deliberately and in bad faith. And then you've got people who it's not that their brain is totally scrambled and they're not completely bad faith. They're just kind of like a little ignorant and they don't realize that there's all these separate issues and we should deal with these issues one at a time. So step one is sort of try to figure out if the person doing the whataboutism is doing it for one or the other of those possibilities that I mentioned. Bad faith, brain scrambled, sort of confused. Try to figure that out. And one of the best tools that I find when somebody brings out this other thing that they want to talk about is to say, hey, you know what? That may also be a problem. I'm glad to talk about that, but let's stick with this topic first, resolve it, and then we can talk about that other thing. Very quickly, you'll know if you say something like that when the whataboutism pops up, whether you're dealing with a brain scramble or someone functioning in bad faith or someone who's just a little bit confused. And sometimes they'll say, oh, you know what? You're right. Okay, yeah. Let's figure this thing out first. Then we can talk about that other thing. Another tool, these aren't even really tools. These are literally just one-liners to try to refocus the conversation. Another thing that can sometimes be said when the whataboutism pops up is something along the lines of, can we just decide and agree what we're talking about now? I know there's all these different things we can talk about. You're wanting to talk about something different. Let's just agree what we're now talking about. And oftentimes it'll get the other person to have to actually tell you what it is we're talking about. And if they're doing a whataboutism with something that really isn't related, but what about that time when Obama drew a red line in Syria? Doesn't really have anything to do with the Qatari World Cup, does it, right? Example. Sometimes that will also get people refocused because you're letting them decide what you're talking about. And sometimes it'll become evident that the two things aren't related. If you're trying to talk about criminal charges against Trump and they want to talk about Obama's red line and you say, can you just tell me what are we talking about right now? Just so we can finish that. It's going to be hard for them to go, well, we're talking about criminal charges against Trump and Obama's red line in Syria. A lot of people, when they say that out loud, would go, wait a second, those two things aren't even remotely connected. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so some ideas for dealing with the whataboutists. Friday, December 23rd, we are doing a one-day membership special, hugely discounted, last one of the year. Remember, we're an independent media show and we're funded by our viewers, but we're going to do something extra. We are going to donate your first month's discounted payment when you sign up Friday with a coupon code that is forthcoming. We will donate that first month's payment to charity to be sent as cash to people in need. I'm talking about people for whom a few bucks makes a big difference. People living on $1 a day, people living on $2 a day in different parts of the world. We've never done this before. And we have an up to $15,000 match. So if you have a $6 a month membership, coupon code smacks it down to $3 a month. we will donate your $3 and we will match it with another $3. We've never tried this. We're trying to do something for the people. If you want to be notified about this, it'll be in an email that goes out Friday morning. Get on my newsletter at davidpakman.com. It's free to get on it. You just type in your email address at the top right of the page. And Friday, you will get all of the details. On today's bonus show, the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, is coming to the U.S. He may already be here. He will be addressing Congress tonight. It is a big deal when a foreign leader addresses Congress. We will talk about it. Elon Musk will resign as head of Twitter, and many of you wrote to me and said, this is great news. A few of you wrote to me and said, this is bad news. They're going to install a flunky. He'll do all the same terrible things, and then Elon Musk can say, I'm not even in charge anymore, and shift blame. We'll talk about it. And we are also going to talk about the confusion and the falsehoods that have been spreading in China, as China has reversed its so-called zero COVID policy, which of course didn't really lead to zero COVID. All of those stories and more on today's bonus show. Sign up at joinpakman.com. We will see you then.